Welcome to Brutally Honest Explanations. Where the truth hurts, the honesty is brutal, and no F's are given. In today's episode, we're dumbing down the nature of reality to something even you can understand. And remember, folks, if you're easily offended, this video is not for you. Please note, the following information is largely speculative. While we use facts and research to support the ideas presented in our videos, the concepts remain theoretical, and we do not condone the blind acceptance of any information without conducting your own research and reaching your own educated conclusions. The purpose of these videos is to inspire curiosity, encourage the questioning of the world around you, and promote thinking for yourself, rather than conforming to conventional ideology. After all, the only certainty is that nothing is certain. What is reality really? Part 1. It sounds like a simple question. It's something that's plagued even the most brilliant minds for centuries. You probably think you know what's real, but do you? The answer? No, you haven't the slightest clue. Don't believe me? Just remember, you once believed a fat, bearded man in a red suit brought you presents every year in a magic sleigh towed by flying deer because you were good. You see, people believe in nonsense all the time. That's the consequence of simply accepting what you're told. Now that you're older, you know better. You were never good enough to deserve those presents. So get comfortable, meatbags, because we're about to hop onto a roller coaster of unbelievable theories that are so above your head. It's like that balloon you lost as a kid and cried for 3 hours before completely forgetting it ever existed. It's a train wreck of insane ideas that seem so absurd and far-fetched. Even the flat earthers will sound sane. But I can assure you, dear viewer, they are not. As crazy as some of these concepts may sound, they're not as crazy as a bunny that lays eggs. So without further delay, let's dive into this dumpster fire of mind-bending concepts that our world is made of. Because believe me, there's much more to reality than what you can see from that old musty sofa in your grandma's basement. Consider this. You wake up suddenly, and what's this? You're already late for work because you forgot to set your alarm again, you moron. With no regard for your personal hygiene, you roll out of bed and rush out the door, thinking that maybe if you skip the shower, you'll have time to watch a few TikToks on the commute. You walk down the sidewalk, phone in hand, and bam! You just ran face first into a pole because you were too busy stalking your ex's Instagram to pay attention to where you were going. Idiot. This is your life. You go about your daily routine day after day, just going through the motions in your mundane existence. But do you ever ask yourself, isn't there more to life than scrolling through Facebook and watching crappy reality TV? No, probably not, and that's why we're here. It's time to end the cycle of mediocrity and take a peek behind the curtains of reality. What if I told you nothing is as it seems, and what you perceive as reality is all in your mind? That pole you so gracefully ran into, that was the universe saying, "Hey, dumbass, wake up. It's time to shake things up a bit." Let's start with the basics, shall we? Everything you perceive in your meager existence is due to your 5 basic senses. You would know this if you paid attention in 3rd grade instead of passing love notes to your crush, who now has 6 kids and lives on welfare. Sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. The mediums through which you perceive reality. All of these senses are simply receiving data, which is then processed by your brain, like a translator interpreting 5 different languages into one simple enough for you to understand. Because let's face it, even high school Spanish was too much for you to grasp. I'm talking to you, the one who still thinks me cago en los pantalones means I need to use the restroom. The truth is, you don't experience the world as it truly is. What you actually get is nothing more than your brain's best guess. You see, The reality you experience through your senses is just a story cobbled together by your brain to make sense of data that exists all around you. It's like the code behind that video game you waste your life on. Your brain is like the computer, translating the code into something you can make sense of and displaying it on the monitor for you to experience. But in reality, behind that monitor, it's all ones and zeros. That's exactly how your brain works. When you see, hear, smell, taste, or touch something, such as ramming your face directly into a pole, you're only aware of its existence because the nerves in your face send an electrical signal to your brain, saying, "Hey, this genius just plowed face first into a solid object because he was too distracted by more important things to use the light spectrum receptors built right into his face to see it coming." And the brain then replies with, "What an imbecile. He must be punished for subjecting his fragile body to danger. Commence the pain." You see, like a robot, your body is equipped with gadgets and sensors designed to detect and interpret the data that's constantly around you. But unlike a robot, sometimes you just don't do a very good job of it. Take your sight, for instance. Everything you see is just an image rendered in your brain based on data received via waves of light. You're not really seeing what's outside. You're seeing a rendered image generated inside your brain from external data. Consider a mole. Not that ugly spot on your back with a single hair sticking out the middle that you continually neglect to tell your doctor about. I'm talking about the animal, particularly the star-nosed mole. It's completely blind, relying instead on its sense of smell. Imagine how different this mole's reality is from yours. To the mole, there is no rendered image of the outside world. It has no perception of what anything looks like, nor the means to understand what it would be like to see something. Trying to understand the concept of seeing would be like you trying to imagine a new color. You just tried to imagine a new color, didn't you? You humans never cease to amaze me, and that's not a compliment. In case you didn't know, it's impossible to imagine a new color. That doesn't mean new colors don't exist, you simply can't detect them. You see, your body's sensors are severely limited, like outdated technology. You're like a defective radio, only tuned into a few select stations, feeding you only a tiny fraction of the actual information that's around you. Your eyes can only perceive light within an extremely narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum between 400 and 700 nanometers, which you perceive as color. That's less than 0.0035% of the entire spectrum. You don't need to be good at math to know that's not very much. To put that in terms you can understand, even if you have perfect 20/20 vision, you are still 99.997% blind. But what about your hearing? Surely it makes up for what you lack in eyesight, right? Nope. Your ears can detect frequencies between 20 and 20,000 hertz. A ridiculously minimal detection range, leaving much of the auditory spectrum undetected. And like sight, hearing is nothing more than your brain's translation of external data. What you hear is the result of sound waves entering your ears and being translated into something you understand. It's the classic question. If a tree falls in the forest with no one around to hear it, does it even make a sound? Technically, the answer is no. It creates a wave of energy, a sound wave. Sound waves are nothing more than frequencies. The sound itself only exists in your head. Without someone around to hear it, it's like a radio wave with no radio. Even your sense of smell and taste are pathetically limited. Did you know? Humans can only smell about 2% as effectively as your canine companions. Honestly, it's a wonder how you've managed to survive this long. Even with all your senses working together, you perceive less than 1% of the data that's actually there. And that's probably giving you more credit than you deserve. With 99% of existence almost completely undetectable to you, just imagine all the terrifying things that could be out there beyond your range of detection. Quite literally, the majority of existence is hidden from you. That's an awful lot of stuff that you're completely oblivious to. Starting to feel like that mole yet? Talk about a multi-dimensional monster under the bed. So why is your perception so limited? Your brain is like a limiting filter, preventing you from seeing the true nature of existence. That's right, your mind is trapped inside a squishy pink wrinkly blob that filters out 99% of reality. It's the ultimate VR headset, letting you experience only what little it's capable of rendering. But unlike a VR headset, which you can take off and reveal the real outside world, you're stuck with your brain. You can't step outside of your own limited perception to see what's truly out there. You're simply not equipped to experience existence in its entirety. Pathetic. Your senses are like a bunch of blindfolded referees, trying to call the shots in a game they can't see. They're doing their best with what they've got, but they're constantly missing crucial information. And to make up for it, they simply make stuff up to fill in the blanks. That's right, your brain lies to you. Your brain fools you into perceiving things that don't exist, and even invents things to make sense of incomplete data and fill in gaps. This is also what's behind optical illusions, like images that appear to move when they're really not. And on top of making things up, your brain also blocks things out. For example, did you know that your nose is always visible to your eyes? But your brain simply ignores it most of the time. This is called unconscious selective attention, sometimes referred to as looking without seeing. And this is why you run into poles. Did you know that all humans have a natural blind spot where the optic nerve passes through the retina? Probably not, because your brain fills in this blind spot for you so you don't notice it. This process is called filling in. All of the data collected by your senses must reach your cerebral cortex in order to be perceived, but much of this data is often missing and incomplete. So your brain makes up a story to make sense of the limited data it has to work with. Not only is your perception limited to only 1% of what's out there, but even out of that 1%, you still don't see things as they really are. Your brain's just really good at fooling you. So, in a nutshell, reality isn't what you think it is. Your senses are more like glitchy software, and your brain is just making stuff up as it goes along, while you stumble around thinking you've got a grip on things. But don't worry, you're not alone in your confusion. Everyone's perception is just as faulty. So, keep questioning, keep doubting, and try not to trip over your own assumptions on the way out. And if that wasn't enough to prove that reality is way more complex than you thought, then be sure to check out episode 2, because this train wreck is just getting started, and shit's about to get weird. In our next episode, we'll pull apart the fabric of reality to get a closer look at what it's really made of, peeling back the layers of your ignorance like an onion that's been left in the back of your fridge for too long. Spoiler alert, it's going to stink, and you might cry a little. So brace yourself, Cupcake. Reality is about to hit you harder than a physics textbook dropped from a 10-story building. Get ready for a swan dive into the absurd, where every answer only raises more questions. And the only certainty is that you'll leave more confused than when you started. Thanks for watching.